Hi, it's Lauren, and welcome to our Whimsy Stamps video hopping giveaway. This month, our theme is It's Right Behind Me, Isn't It? And we're all using the Slimline Cityscape die set. And I'm going to be also bringing in my alien dies. We have spaceships die set, space aliens die set, UFO die set. And I'm also going to be stamping a sentiment from the UFWHOA clear stamp set. So I will have linked down below everything that I used to create this card. And I went ahead and die cut all of my pieces out of some gray, yellow, and black cardstock. That will be a part of my background. My alien spaceship is out of some metallic cardstock as well as some pearlescent vellum paper. And I've die cut my alien and little people out of some black cardstock as well as a moon in yellow and lots of little clouds in gray as well. I'm going to be working on my background first, and I have a piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock. This is just a scrap that was already wide enough to fit on my slimline card, so yay for that. And I have distressed using chipped sapphire, completely covered this piece of cardstock. I'm putting it in my splatter box and I'm using my spritzer to add some water drops. I'm letting it sit so that way it really oxidizes that ink while I get a paper towel ready to dab up the excess water and ink to create this textured sky. I'm trying to create kind of a starry nighttime sky. I also had some white ink that I sprayed onto my background, and I'm using some glitter, kind of like a pixie dust, to sprinkle onto my background as well, really trying to create that shimmery night sky. Once it's pretty much dry, I'm going to grab that paper towel and just pick up any excess liquid. I want to keep crafting, so I'm not going to let it sit and wait too long to dry. I'm going to add some double-sided sticky tape, some really strong tape to the back of this piece, and I'm going to glue it to my slimline cardstock base. My base is 8.5 by 3.5 once scored and folded, and I'm going to glue that to the top of my card. As you can see, it's a little smaller than my slimline card base, but that's okay because this piece is going to be covered by my Cityscape die cuts. So now to adhere my Cityscape, I'm just going to take some wet glue and put some glue all over the back behind these buildings. I probably should have adhered my cardstock to some double-sided adhesive sheets, but I didn't think of it at the time. So I'm using wet glue to adhere that yellow cardstock piece right behind it. I love that you get both of these border die cuts so that way you can add in those city lights without a whole lot of trouble. It fits perfectly behind the die cut with all the little windows. Once those were glued down, I cut off any excess yellow that was showing around my three sides, and now I can adhere this piece to my card base. I took a little sliver of extra cardstock that was from my scrap stash just to kind of make sure that it's flush when I adhere these together, since my blue paper didn't go all the way to the bottom, and this will just help keep my card sturdy without any weird bending when I'm gluing it onto my card base because it was missing a little bit of paper at the bottom of my card. I use wet glue to adhere that down, and now we're going to work on adding my black grassy kind of shadow looking die cuts. I wanted it to look like they were shadows in front of the city lights. So I am cutting out some thin foam strips to put behind each of these pieces and adding them to my card base. I cut out 3 different pieces. This is a piece of scrap black cardstock. I need to buy more. I'm so surprised that I didn't stock up before the Halloween season on black cardstock. I feel like that should have been on like the first thing I did, but I had to rummage through my scraps to cut these out. So I was able to get 3 pieces of different hilly grasses out of this scrap piece of black paper, and I'm gluing them down to the bottom of my card base to create my foreground kind of grassy hill, again where my alien and my people are going to be standing on. Once those are adhered down, I'm cutting off any excess that is on the sides or the bottom of my card base, and then gluing the final piece to the front. Then once those are done, I'm going to start working on my alien spaceship. So I die cut the bottom of my spaceship out of some metallic cardstock, and I'm going through my scraps just sitting next to me on my desk to try and adhere a backing behind my spaceship, and I only need half because only half of my spaceship is actually going to be on the card. So I found this piece of yellow just from die cutting, and I just used my scissors to trim it down to fit behind half of my spaceship here, and I'm gluing that down, and that way when I glue back in my lights in my center of my spaceship, they are flush with the metallic cardstock. Now I realize I probably could have just left the yellow cardstock for my lights alone because they were already yellow, but I wanted that flush look of paper piecing or puzzle piecing my pieces of paper, wow, that's a tongue twister, back into my spaceship. I hope that made sense. I wanted it to look flush and even. So that is going to be glued down to the top right of my card. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere that down like an alien is flying over my little people, you'll see in a second, and beaming down an alien to visit them. I have some pearlescent vellum that like I said, that I die cut my little beam out of, and I die cut it with a double-sided adhesive sheet behind it so I could glue it down. But I didn't think about the fact that I popped up my grass first. Should have done this first, but that's okay. I make it work. I am going to slide my beam just behind the grass, and then I'm going to slide it in between the opening of my spaceship. So then once that is done, I'm just going to use my finger and really push on that pearlescent vellum to my background, making sure it's nice and stuck. And then I will use my large scissors to trim off the excess of my spaceship. But when I was doing that, I realized it was a little crooked and there was one area where a light was actually going to show. So I just die cut another little oval out from my die cut of the spaceship, and then use some wet glue and my jewel picker to pop that in, just like the rest of my lights. Now it isn't as flush as the other ones, but it's okay. We're going with it. Once that was pretty much dry, I trimmed off the excess paper, and there we go. You can see my little spaceship looks like it's coming out from the top of the card. Now for my alien and my people, I'm going to have them flush with my grassy banks here, my ground, but I am going to pop up anything that is not touching the grass so that way they are adhered nicely and secured to my card. So wet glue on the feet and some thin foam strips behind the head and body of my alien, and same with my little people. I will put some foam strips behind their heads and then use wet glue on their feet to adhere those down. And then once I'm done with my people, I'm going to work on my night sky. I have my moon and my lots of different clouds. I cut them out of the same gray and yellow cardstock as my city outline in the back. So I'm going to glue my moon down because the moon will be further away than the clouds. So that way I could take my clouds and just arrange them however I wanted to on my card. So just using my wet glue to adhere that moon down, and then I'm going to arrange my clouds off camera and glue them down with a jewel picker and wet glue as well. There's just so many, and I'm just putting them sporadically along my skyline just to make it look like it was a cloudy night sky. When those are pretty much dry, I'm just going to go ahead and tap them on, make sure none of them are moving around. The glue is nice and secure. I'll take my large scissors and once again trim off anything that is on the edges or hanging off the edges of my card. And with that, I'm going to move on to a sentiment. I knew I wanted to use one of my sentiments from the UFO or UFWHOA stamp set. So I decided to take some more of that pearlescent vellum, but this time I attached it to a white piece of cardstock and used one of my comic speech bubble dies, and I'm stamping the sentiment "Humans Suck" in some gray VersaFine Clair ink, and I did that so I could emboss it. I have this chrome silver embossing powder, so I'm just going to cover that up with the powder, tap off the excess, and then use my heat gun to melt that powder down and create a fun embossed sentiment. And there it is, shimmery and fun. I'm going to put it on the left side just to even out my card a little bit, and I'm going to pop up anything that is not on the grass and then use wet glue on the part of the sentiment that will be on the grass, and I'm going to adhere that down. That will finish off my card. I hope you enjoyed this video and you hop along. Make sure you leave comments along the hop so you can be entered to win a $25 gift certificate to the Whimsy Stamps store. Use the links down below to head to the next crafter. Thanks again for watching. If you like this tutorial, I hope you'll click that like button, and if you're new here, welcome. I hope you'll hit subscribe and come back. Thanks again for watching, and have a wonderful day and a fun time hopping. Bye!